Shadows over Lyra 9. The Lyra 9 system hung on the fringes of explored space. A tiny pinprick of civilization nestled among the cold, endless stars from above. Station Astra resembled a glittering spider perched atop the vast ice moon of Galeen, its spindly docks and modules illuminated in perpetual blue twilight. Yet within its steel hull, anxiety festered like a wound. Commander Alara Voss pressed a shaking finger to her wrist console, dismissing the sixth garbled distress signal that hour. The static-laced voices of miners and freighter crews haunted her, each one abruptly ending in silence. She braced herself against the reinforced glass of the observation deck and gazed out at the planet Ars, its rust-red storms swirling with ominous beauty. The Lyra 9 system should have been safe. The Federation had marked it a low-threat zone, its primary hazards being meteor storms and the occasional illegal salvage team. No one expected war here, least of all Alara, whose career had been built on efficiency, not heroics. She had come to Lyra 9 for a quiet assignment, a chance to escape the chaos of core world politics. Now, the weight of 1,000 lives pressed down on her with every passing hour. "Commander, another freighter Kestrel's grace just went dark," reported Lieutenant Farron, his voice tight. "Same pattern. One burst transmission, then nothing. Whatever's out there is jamming." "Comms," Alara's jaw tightened. "Seal all external docking ports, double perimeter patrols, and get me a visual sweep of the debris field. I want eyes everywhere." "Farron." He hesitated. "Ma'am, if it's the same as last time, I know what I'm asking," she cut in, softer now. "But we need information. Send only volunteers, and Farron, keep it quiet. We don't need a panic." As the young officer hurried away, Alara caught her reflection in the glass. Her uniform was immaculate, but exhaustion haunted her eyes. She'd been awake for 30 hours, fueled by bitter coffee and fear. In the silence, she allowed herself a single, bitter thought. Where is the Federation? Where is our help? A sharp alarm interrupted her reverie. A new proximity alert. "Commander Voss to Ops," the automated voice chimed. "Unscheduled arrival." At outer marker, Alara rushed to the control center, her boots echoing along the empty corridor. The tension was palpable. Technicians clustered around screens displaying the outlying sector movement, faint and flickering, on the edge of sensor range. Farron met her gaze. "It's not broadcasting a friendly IFF, no transponder. And it's big, Commander. Bigger than anything registered to the mining corp." The display flickered. There it was, a monstrous silhouette sliding out from behind the gas giant. Jagged, predatory lines, armor blackened like scorched bone. Red sigils crawled across its hull. Glowing faintly, Alara's stomach dropped. "Lithri," she whispered. The name alone was enough to send shivers down any officer's spine. The Lithri. Marauders were no myth. She'd heard rumors of their raids, entire settlements vanishing overnight, ships torn apart and left drifting, hulls etched with the same red symbols as a warning to all who dared trespass. "Bring weapons online," she ordered. "Power. 2 shields, get everyone to their battle stations." But it was already too late. The Lithri warship split into 3 fragments. Landing craft, Voss realized, each one racing toward the station like hungry sharks. Automated defense turrets spat blue plasma, but the enemy craft jinked and spun with impossible agility, returning fire with blinding accuracy. The first explosions tore through the outer ring of the station. Fire alarms wailed. In the chaos, Farron's voice rose over the comms. "Hull breach on Deck 9. Seal the bulkheads." Alara gritted her teeth. "All security teams fall back to the core. Civilians to the shelters. Hold them as long as you can." She watched the tactical map as red icons spread through the station enemy borders. Moving fast, the Lithri had come for blood. Alara's own comm beeped. "Bridge, this is engineering. They've breached the reactor. We can't hold." The message dissolved into static, punctuated by the muffled sound of plasma fire and inhuman shrieks. Panic threatened to overwhelm her. She forced herself to focus. "This is my station. These are my people." She grabbed a pulse rifle from the emergency rack and led her small command squad through the smoke-filled corridors. They fought room by room, but the enemy seemed endless figures in blackened armor, moving with silent, predatory grace, their weapons pulsing red. As she ducked into a maintenance hatch, Alara's mind raced. They needed help, any help. She triggered a last-ditch distress beacon, routing it through a forgotten deep space relay. The odds of anyone hearing it were slim. The command deck shook as the enemy's main warship fired a broadside, the impact hurling her to the floor. Emergency lights flickered. Life support stuttered. Alara crawled to her console and watched the station systems fail, one by one. Communications, shields, oxygen scrubbers. The Lithyre's ship loomed ever closer, its crimson eyes fixed on the dying station. In the cold dark, something shifted, a distant signal. At first, she thought it was another Lithyre trick, but the tone was different, deep, resonant, unmistakably human. She stared in disbelief as her console parsed the transmission. Ghostly through the interference, human warship approaching. From the void, hope flickered in her chest, fragile but alive. Alara rose, battered and bloodied, clutching her rifle. She wasn't alone in the darkness, after all. The Howling from the void. For decades, tales of the UNS Vanguard haunted the fringes of human space. Some called it a myth, an old warship, a ghost of the Solarian fleet that refused to die. Others, those who'd glimpsed its passage or survived its battles, spoke of it in hushed, reverent tones. In the blackest regions, where Federation law faded, the Vanguard was both sword and shield, a lone wolf prowling for lost children and monsters alike. At the edge of Lyra 9, that legend was about to become reality. The wolf Captain Marcus Kane sat in his command chair, posture relaxed but eyes as sharp as a hunting animal's. His bridge was unlike any in the core worlds. No gleaming chrome, no plush carpeting. This was the battered heart of an old predator. Matte black consoles, battle scars etched into every panel, and crew who moved with quiet, bone-deep discipline. A holographic map floated before him, showing the Lyra 9 system as a three-dimensional model. The dying space station, drifting debris, and orbiting like vultures, the Lithyre ships. A blinking red icon marked Astra's last signal, a plea for help swallowed by static. Report, Kane said quietly. Lieutenant Rhea spun from her console, the bridge lights reflecting in her dark eyes. We're running silent. Lithyre sensors haven't pinged us yet. Their ships are broadcasting some kind of scramble field. But I'm punching through. It's ugly down there, sir. Kane nodded. Weapons? Plasma disruptors ready. Drones in launch tubes. Tactical AIs itching for a fight, replied Weapons Officer Shabo, a grizzled veteran whose left arm was a cybernetic relic from the Jovian uprisings. The Vanguard glided through the void, invisible, engines humming like a distant storm. Its hull, dark as obsidian, absorbed the weak sunlight from Lyra 9's faded star. They were close enough now to see the flashes of battle outside station. Astra flickers of blue and red, explosions blooming in the dark. The bridge crew tensed as they watched a civilian shuttle try to break from the station. A Lithyre interceptor, sleek and predatory, intercepted it with a single plasma shot. The shuttle spun, trailing burning debris, its distress beacon a final, shrill wail. Kane's jaw set. Enough. All hands, battle stations, Rhea, punch up. Our broadcast. Let them hear us coming. She grinned, fingers flying. The Vanguard's ancient communications array powered up, slicing through jamming fields with brute force and defiant clarity. A single, long note, part siren, part howl echoed across the void. The Vanguard attacks. The Lithyre fleet had grown complacent. Their ships prowled the wreckage, engines running hot, weapons seeking more victims. They didn't notice the hunter until it was too late. Vanguard's main battery roared, flinging a line of searing blue plasma across the battlefield. The nearest Lithyre corvette disintegrated, hull splitting in two, its engines still firing as it spun away. Direct hit, sir, Shabo crowed. Kane's voice was ice. Target their command ship. Disable engines. We'll make them fight us, not the station. Swarm drones streaked from Vanguard's launch bays, hundreds of tiny machines, each no bigger than a human arm, bristling with hacking tools and microplasma cutters. They slithered into the enemy formation, diving into open maintenance bays, and venting ships to hard vacuum as enemy cannons turned to track them. Vanguard's main guns opened up again, delivering salvo after salvo. Calculated bursts meant to cripple, not destroy. On board the Lithri flagship, panic erupted. The captain, a towering alien wrapped in ceremonial armor, bellowed orders as consoles flickered and died. The Federation had been soft targets, but this thing fought with the fury of a cornered beast. Rhea. Tactical update. Kane snapped. Multiple enemy ships turning toward us. They're massing for a counterstrike. Astra's power grid is down to 40%, shields failing. Kane weighed the risk. We get one shot at this. Plot a high-velocity pass. I want every Lithri ship focused on us. Shabo, give them everything we've got. Leave nothing in the magazine. Shabo's grin was all teeth. With pleasure, Captain. The running battle Vanguard howled again. Its engines flaring blue-white. It plunged into the heart of the Lithri formation, hull vibrating with the force of its own acceleration. Enemy plasma raked its shields, first a glancing blow, then a concerted barrage. The Vanguard's own guns returned fire, painting the darkness with streaks of raw energy. On the bridge, Kane felt every impact. He watched the Lithri warships wheel and bank, desperate to pin the Vanguard in place, to crush this unexpected challenger. But the old ship was too fast, too clever. Every time the enemy closed in, the Vanguard slipped away, trailing mines and automated countermeasures. In the chaos, an opening appeared. The Lithri's largest cruiser, engines overheating, exposed its vulnerable underbelly. Kane didn't hesitate. Fired disruptors. Now, a storm of blue-white fire engulfed the cruiser. Its core ruptured, unleashing a shockwave that rocked the entire field. For a moment, everything went still. Even the enemy hesitated. Rhea's voice was tight with excitement. Sir, we've got the station's attention. Their main comm is coming back online. Kane nodded. Open a channel. Let them know we're here. A flicker of hope in Station Astra, battered and burning. Alara Voss stared in disbelief at her command console. Through the static and chaos, a new signal emerged, a howl, followed by a clear, human voice. This is Captain Marcus Kane of the UN's Vanguard. To all survivors aboard Station Astra, we are engaging the enemy. Prepare for extraction and stand by for orders. Her heart surged with hope and fear. The voice was like thunder, calm and absolute. A young ensign cheered. Someone wept. Alara keyed her calm. Vanguard, this is Commander Voss. We have wounded and civilians in secure sectors, but our shields are collapsing. Can you cover evacuation? Kane's answer was immediate. We'll clear you a path. Hold tight. Commander, into the fireback on the Vanguard. Kane rose from his chair. Crossing the bridge in 3 long strides, he watched the tactical map. Lithri. Ships closing in, Astra flickering at the center. A handful of blue dots marking the last human survivors. They thought no help was coming. Kane said softly, almost to himself, let's prove them wrong. Orders, sir? Rhea asked, voice eager. Drive a wedge between the enemy and the station. Deploy boarding teams to cover their evacuation. I want those people out alive. And Rhea, keep broadcasting that howl. Let them know the wolves are here, outside. The UN's Vanguard dove back into battle, engines screaming. Guns blazing, a warship howling through the void. A last hope for Lyra 9. And for the first time in days, the darkness felt a little less cold. The price of rescueth war for Lyra 9 had become a frantic dance of survival. The darkness outside Station Astra was split again and again by searing plasma, shrieking missile trails, and the explosive deaths of ships both human and alien. For every flicker of hope, there was a shadow, a reminder that salvation had a cost. Emmer and Ashes. Alara Voss pressed her hand to a cracked helmet, blood trickling down her temple. The corridor lights flickered overhead as she led a ragged line of survivors toward the remaining escape pods. Every few meters, the ground shuddered as the Lithri pounded the station with their guns. She risked a glance at her datapad life signs, 63. Barely half the station's crew and civilians. The others were gone, lost to decompression. Or Lithri boarding squads. The names scrolled past, ghosts already. The air was thick with burnt ozone and fear. Farron, her faithful lieutenant, stumbled beside her, clutching a limp child rescued from a collapsed medbay. No one spoke. Every breath, every step was survival distilled. A heavy clang echoed through the station. The floor listed sickeningly. As Astra's main strut was severed by a direct hit, Alara barked a desperate order. Move. Double time. We're almost there. But the station was dying around them. Bulkheads groaned. Flames licked at the walls. Another explosion flung them all to the ground. Somewhere, someone screamed. Alara pulled herself up, forcing her body to move. Not here. Not yet. She would not let these people die with rescue so close. Aboard the Vanguard, the last stand above, in the void. The End's Vanguard was living up to its legend and paying the price. Every screen on Kane's bridge glowed with red warnings. Hull breaches. On Deck 3, shields at 32%. Weapons batteries overheating. The ship's AI, Perseus, delivered updates with emotionless precision. Yet the crew could hear the fatigue, even in a machine. Portside batteries down, Captain. Shabo announced, voice hoarse, but defiant. Drones report boarding attempts. On Decks 5 and 6, enemy trying to cut through the hull. Kane gritted his teeth. Seal those decks. Vent atmosphere if you have to. Keep their focus on us, not the station, outside. The Lithri dreadnought massive, angular, bristling, with spines loomed into view. It dwarfed the other ships, each broadside a rolling thunder. Its cannons lit the darkness like red lightning, scoring Vanguard's armor with molten scars. Rhea, hands a blur at her console, called out, they're targeting our engines. If we lose drive power, we don't, Kane interrupted. Not today, Shabo, fire all remaining torpedoes, full spread. Let's see how much pain this beast can take. Torpedoes streaked from Vanguard's battered hull, targeting the Lithri flagship's weak points, sensor rays, missile bays, propulsion. Clusters, some were intercepted by enemy flak, but enough hit their mark. The dreadnought's shields rippled, then flickered, then burst in a corona of energy. But the monster kept coming. Extraction under fire back on Station Astra. Alara reached the last functioning pod bay. Only 3 pods remained, each with space. For 20 souls, she shoved Farron and the child into the first pod, shouting, priority, wounded and children. Her comm crackled. Astra, this is Vanguard. Extraction window, 90 seconds. After that, we break off or risk total loss. Alara didn't hesitate. Understood, Vanguard. Launching pods in sequence. Cover us, as the first pod sealed. And launched, a Lithri boarding party crashed through the corridor's far door. Shrieking in their guttural tongue, plasma rifles raised. Alara emptied her pulse rifle into their ranks, feeling every shot as penance for those already lost. 2 security officers fell covering the second pod. Their sacrifice bought just enough time. Flames leapt from the walls as coolant lines burst. The second pod ejected, hissing into the void. Alara looked at the battered faces around her scientists. Engineers, a few Marines, and herself. All in, she said. If we go together. The last pod cycled shut, through the tiny porthole. She watched Astra fall away, a wounded Leviathan bleeding light and life. Then the escape sequence jolted the pod, flinging it toward the distant silhouette of the Vanguard, now engaged in a final, desperate duel with the Lithri dreadnought. Sacrifice and survival on the Vanguard. Kane's focus narrowed to a single act: cover the pods, no matter the cost. Dreadnought targeting escape pods, Rhea warned. Fear breaking through her calm, Kane hit the override. Put us between them. All remaining power to forward shields. Vanguard rotated with agonizing slowness, intercepting a barrage meant for the fleeing pods. The first shots scored the hull, tearing through compartments and sending shutters through every deck. Kane's bridge was chaos, screaming metal, sparks, injured crew dragging each other to cover. Still, the ship held. Pods are clear, Captain. Rhea shouted. Vanguard's taken heavy damage, but we did it. They're safe for a moment. There was no battle, only the battered sound of the crew's breathing, and the silent, drifting pods escaping the storm. Then Perseus, the ship's eye, chimed in cold. Final, enemy flagship powering main cannon. Impact imminent. Kane slammed the comms. All hands brace. The Lithri dreadnought fired its last desperate shot, a crimson beam, cutting through space. It struck the Vanguard's starboard side. shearing off armor and sending a cascade of explosions through its superstructure. The ship staggered, on the edge of total collapse. Kane coughed through the smoke, his vision blurred by blood. He looked up, saw the final pod clearing the engagement zone. "Fire everything," he ordered. One last shot. Shabo, half-conscious but grinning, hit the trigger, a full salvo of Vanguard's remaining ordnance mines, plasma bolts. Drone torpedoes streaked into the dreadnought's exposed flank. The alien ship's reactor went critical, flaring white-hot before tearing itself apart in a chain reaction. The Lithri survivors scattered, warping out, leaving behind only debris and the echo of their defeat, ashes and ekis in the battered bridge. Kane slumped into his chair as emergency lights flickered. The Vanguard was broken, battered, but alive. Barely Urea, her face streaked with ash, leaned against a console. Evacuation complete. No Lithri signatures in local space. We made it, sir." Kane nodded, too tired for triumph. "Get me a link to the pods. Tell Commander Voss. Tell them Lyranine endures." In the cold silence, Alara's exhausted voice came through, small but defiant. "Thank you, Vanguard. Thank you for coming when hope was lost." Kane closed his eyes, letting the relief wash over him. Around him, his crew patched wounds, doused fires, and readied the ship for whatever came next. Victory had come at a terrible price. Friends lost, ships destroyed, scars both physical and unseen. The war was not over, but for one moment, humanity had howled back at the darkness and won. Howling into the futureth debris fields of Lyranine glimmered. In the soft light of the distant sun-twisted steel, shards of shattered armor, flickering embers from ships that had fought and died. In the black, the storm had passed, but the scars were fresh. All across the battered surface of Station Astra, survivors gazed out at a horizon forever changed. But as the battered escape pods drifted toward the crippled hull of the IN's Vanguard, hope wounded, battered, but alive rose from the ashes. The gathering of survivorless teams from the Vanguard, patched with field bandages and working through pain, opened the pod hatches one by one. The rescued poured out in twos and threes, some bloodied, some silent with shock, some weeping openly. Marines hugged their friends, medics rushed to the wounded, and survivors from Astra miners, scientists, techs, children found themselves clutching hands with the warriors who'd fought for them. Commander Alara Voss was among the last to exit her pod. The cold air bit at her bruised face as she staggered onto the deck, knees threatening to buckle with exhaustion. Her uniform was singed, her hair matted with soot, but her eyes were clear. She straightened at the sight of Captain Marcus Kane, who stood at the edge of the airlock. He, too, bore the marks of battle: a bloodied brow, a torn sleeve, a limp in his left leg, but his gaze was unwavering. For a moment, they simply regarded each other, two survivors, bound by the shared trauma of command. Voss managed a smile. "We owe you our lives." Kane shook his head. "We just did what had to be done." Rhea and Shabo stood nearby, directing the flow of survivors, pausing only to salute their captain. The Vanguard's battered crew mingled with Astra's, forming new bonds from the wreckage of the old. But the mood, though relieved, was somber. There were many names unspoken, many faces missing from the crowd. Counting the cost in the makeshift medbay, the cost of the battle became painfully clear. Dr. Evra, the ship's chief medical officer, worked with Alara's medics to triage the worst cases. The wounded overflowed the beds. The dead, draped in emergency blankets, were arranged with care and respect along a quiet corridor. Kane moved among his crew, offering words, a steady hand, a presence that steadied the shaken. When he finally paused to let Dr. Evra clean his wounds, he saw in her eyes the same haunted exhaustion he felt in his own bones. Was it worth it? "Marcus," she asked quietly. "So many lost, so much burned away." Kane met her gaze. "If you're alive to ask that question, it was worth it. But we can't let it be for nothing. We have to warn the others. The Lithri aren't finished." Across the bay, Alara watched her people come back to life slowly, haltingly, with the help of Vanguard's crew. She felt the beginnings of hope and a new kind of purpose. A signal in the dark. Vanguard was a ship on the edge, battered, systems failing. Reactor output dwindling to critical levels. As Rhea worked to patch the calm arrays, Perseus, the ship's AI, spoke up, its tone now carrying a hint of fatigue. Almost humanity. Captain Kane, we have an encrypted transmission. Priority Alpha, Federation High Command. Kane wiped blood from his brow. Patch it through. A blue hologram flared to life above the bridge. Admiral Hakim, face grave, Vanguard. This is Command. We received your transmission. Casualty. Reports are coming in from across the sector. Lithri attacks. Multiple systems lost. But your actions at Lyra 9 turned the tide. Reinforcements are inbound. Hold your position and protect the survivors at all costs. The message flickered, then was gone. Kane looked around the bridge at Rhea, Shabo. Perseus's avatar flickering in the glue. Man saw their resolve harden. For the first time since entering Lyra 9, it wasn't despair he felt, but purpose, reckoning, and resolve. Later, in the shattered remains of the Vanguard's ready room, Alara and Kane shared a brief moment of quiet. The stars wheeled beyond the scarred viewport. Rescue ships glittered in the distance. I never thought I'd see the Federation again, Alara confessed. When those Lithri ships came, we thought we were alone. We thought no help was coming. Kane managed a weary smile. When the void howls at you, sometimes you have to howl back. Humanity's always been at its best with its back to the wall. They sat in silence, listening to the soft hum of repair drones, the distant voices of survivors, the low thrum of the crippled engines. What happens now? Alara asked. We rebuild, Kane said. We warn the other colonies. We make sure no one else is left to die in the dark. And next time, because there will be a next time, we'll be ready. He rose and extended a hand. Alara took it, her grip strong. To the future, she said. Kane nodded. To the howl. The next horizon repairs began in earnest. Federation relief ships dropped out of hyperspace one by one, their hulls bearing the proud blue star of Earth. Supplies were transferred. The wounded were cared for. Home messages of survival were sent on secure channels. In the main hangar, children from Astra sketched ships on the deck plates with bits of broken wire, while Marines showed them how to salute. Engineers swapped stories and tools. Medics shared laughter over rations. The line between survivor and rescuer began to blur. But as Kane stood on the battered bridge, watching his crew at work, a new alert chimed on his console. Rhea, busy at a sensor panel, frowned. Captain, picking up an anomaly at the system's edge. Multiple signals in known transponder codes. Movement vector suggests another fleet. Kane straightened, that familiar tension threading through his veins. Lithri. Rhea shook her head. No, sir. Something else, bigger, stranger. Kane stared out at the vast, glittering darkness, the endless, ever-challenging void. His lips curled into a fierce, hungry smile. Sound the alert. All hands to stations. Looks like the galaxy isn't done with us yet. He activated the comms, his voice ringing out with the calm certainty that had steadied so many. To all crew and survivors, the fight isn't over, but we're not alone. This is the Vanguard. When the void calls, we answer, and we howl back. As the battered warship powered up once more, its silhouette framed by the silvered clouds of Lyra 9, one truth echoed through the hearts of all aboard. They had thought no help was coming. But when the darkness closed in, humanity had come howling from the void and would do so again.